Hello, my name is Kate. My official title is Head of Content, Print and Digital at Practical Publishing. Basically what I do is craft content. So it's my job to make people who love craft inspired, to give you advice, to make sure that you are in touch with the best designers, the best experts, so that you can enjoy crafting, which is why we're all here, really. This is my wedding dress because I'm getting married in just under 2 months, and this dress I bought from the wonderful Berry Hospice bridal shop because I'm not into creating waste where it's unnecessary, and I think wedding dresses, for something that you're going to wear once, I would much rather have something secondhand. I'll wear it once, I'll give it straight back to that shop, and then in the meantime the hospice has got a couple of £100. That means that this was not made to measure me. It was made to measure someone else at some point in the past, and it doesn't exactly fit. It fits me in the waist, but my chesticular area does not compute with these measurements here. So I can zip it up to there basically, but it needs letting out at the sides. I took this dress to an alterations place in Manchester at the weekend, and I did not have a pleasant experience. I'm sort of roughly a UK size, like 16, 18. I'm a very, very average sized human being. I'm a bit tall, if anything. I'm 5'10", but I'm not an unusual size. And like I say, this fits me in the waist. It just needs laying out of the bust. And the way the woman in the shop looked at me, it was as if I was a literal elephant trying to fit into a size 8 dress. It wasn't a nice experience, and anyone who exists in a body has probably had a similar experience, because this society is terrible, particularly to people of a woman presenting type of persuasion. And yeah, it just wasn't nice and is not how I want to feel in my wedding dress. So as a crafter, as someone who does know one end of needle and thread from the other, I decided, no, I'm not going to let her make me feel this way. I am not going to pay her the £500 she said it was going to cost to do the alterations, which is ridiculous. I am going to take matters into my own hands. I'm going to be the master of my own destiny, and I'm going to do the alterations myself. So I thought, head of content, print and digital. What do? I do content. Let's make content out of the dress. So that's why we're here. I'm going to talk you through it. You are going to be here for the ups, downs of which I'm sure there are going to be many. The lovely Deborah at Genome is sending me a proper sewing machine to do the sewing with, because my machine at home, bless it, it does its best. It's a machine that my mum bought for me from the Argos catalogue for my 18th birthday. It's been through a lot. It's seen better days. So Genome have very, very kindly, they're lending me a proper good machine, so that will arrive soon. In the meantime, I thought you would like to see the dress as it is before I start picking it apart. It's as you can see, it's quite long, quite voluminous. It does have side seams here, which is where I'm going to let it out. I've checked the inside, there's plenty of seam allowance there to play with, but if I need to, I can also use the satin from this waist belt here, which I think I'm going to take off. Anyway, see, I'm standing here with all the confidence in the world right now. I don't know how it's going to turn out. Fingers crossed it goes all right. Worst case scenario, everything I'm doing is under my armpits and nobody should be looking that closely under my armpits anyway. Yeah, so that's the dress. The back of it, I don't know if I can turn it around. What I'll do is I'll insert some detail shots here over me talking. The back of it is lace all the way down. My favourite thing about this dress is the buttons that go all the way from the nape of the neck all the way down along the full length of the train, which I just think is really, really pretty. There are a couple of button loops that also need fixing. It needs a new hook and eye putting in at the top of the zip on the back. There are many, many layers to this dress, so I think the majority of the challenges I face will be just physically tackling it because it's huge. But I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to, like I say, taking control of it and making it something that I am proud of and happy with, and fingers crossed we'll get married in, hopefully. That's the idea anyway. None of this is going to come out until after the wedding, because my other half, Ali, does tend to watch things that I do on Tinternet, and I don't want them seeing the dress beforehand, because yeah, so the dress is going to live here at the studio, which is about 2 miles from my house. I'm going to wrap it up after this, and then the next time you see me here will probably, I guess, be me sitting and unpicking it, which I'm planning on doing with a couple of box sets at the weekend. And we will take it from there. So yeah, let's see how this goes. So I've unpicked the sides from the armpit down to the waist, and as you can see from the back, the zip does up fine, and these buttons will start doing up. I just need to work out how much extra I need in these armpit areas. I unpicked the seams. Today my aim is just to get it basted. I've got some thread, needles, all hand sewing today. The machine isn't coming out yet, although it is here, it's in the corner and it's looking at me, it's very nice. So I'm just going to switch the top down camera so that you can get a little bit of a better look at what's going on here. Okay, so here's the dress. As you can see, I have opened it up at the side there. That is the front of the dress, that's the back. The construction is it's a princess seam bodice with a waist seam. The waist does fit me, so I've only unpicked down as far as the waist. I've only unpicked the bodice, and the construction is there's a satin lining, a satin outer with a mesh net overlayer, onto which is stitched these lace appliques. So as you can see, this lace applique did go over a seam, so I've just unpicked it, and when I open it up and create more space for the girls, I'll be able to stitch that back over the top. So my plan today, as you can see, there's a reasonable amount of seam allowance in there, in both the lining and the outer. So I am going to baste the lining in place and try it on and see how we get on. So like I say, it fits in the waist. So if you look at the back, there's a zip that runs up here. So these are faux buttons here. Well, they're real buttons, but there's no buttonholes. And then they're real buttons all the way up the rest of the back. And it does up the first few buttons here, and the top buttons do up on me, but it needs a little bit more room in what is at the front, this area, you know, where the squidgy bit is. It's not a problem I usually have, but there we go. There is, as you can see, there are some princess seams inside where there is a little bit more seam allowance in there if I desperately need it. I don't think I will, and even if I do need a bit more breathing room, I think I'm more likely to put a panel in the side rather than open up those seams, because it's just going to be simpler. The worst case scenario is that I have to remove the bodice from the skirt, because that'll be a pain in the bum, because there's so many layers of skirt. But like I say, I keep reminding myself it fits at the waist. I don't have to do anything to the waist. I do need to pop on some new fresh hook and eye, because this one's given up the ghost. But yeah, that's easy peasy. And I've got some of those in my bag from Minerva, so I can do that as and when. So I've got a little bit more unpicking to go. As I've seen, there's a couple of little stitches that I need to do to open up this seam, and then I'm going to start basting. So let's cut to the montage. I've got a seam ripper right here, and I just bit that. Anyway, that's one side basted. So you can see very rough stitching there, just to see how much I can let it out by. And as you can see, that adds a fair bit to that side panel. So there'll be some finagling to do to make this seam look good. But at the end of the day, it's going to be in my armpit. So if anyone's looking that closely at my armpit, that's their problem and not mine. Really? So yeah, like I say, I'm just doing the basting the under, basting the lining, and then we'll see where we go from there. So I'm just going to do the other side, flip it over. This thing is massive. What am I doing? What if I just wear jeans? No, dress is pretty. Pretty dress is pretty. We're going to wear pretty dress, aren't we, Kate? Yes, we're going to wear pretty dress. Right. More unpicking and then more montage. Looking at this a little bit closer now, the lining is actually double layered itself. So there's an outer of satin, and then I think, is this just a canvas or a really loose weave cotton for stability, I guess, because it's a very, very structured garment, as one would expect from a wedding dress. That's the lining all basted together. So that's that side. You can see my very rough stitches. But you can see inside, that's what it will actually look like. I'll steam it out, and obviously I will be actually stitching it with white thread. I'm using a mustard so that I can see my stitches and pull them out easily. I must say, the closer I get to this dress, the more massive amounts of respect I have for bridal designers and seamstresses, because the construction of this is, I mean, it's worth every penny of what they are new, because there's layers and layers of tulle and lining and lining for the lining. So I think, like, right here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at places there's like 6 layers of fabric in the bodice, and then there's even more in this massive skirt. So I absolutely see why wedding dresses cost what they do. I just can't justify spending that myself. And especially when people buy them, wear them once and then that's it. It just doesn't sit right with me, you know? When this was just on a hanger somewhere in Bury, and I gave some money for the hospice for it. So I'm going to try this on. It's going to be interesting because I don't think I can do the buttons up by myself. I haven't thought this through. Friends, this is a tricky dress to try on by yourself. Okay, so it feels to me, by how it fits here, and as you can see, I can reach the buttons across the back there. But the zip keeps unzipping itself every time I zip it up, although it does go all the way up. So I need a friend to do it up for me. But this is the closest this has come to fitting. So I'm very pleased with that part of the situation. So, yes. What I might do is take it off, unzip it, button some more of it up, and then see if I can put it on over my head. Well, as you can see, I'm very warm. I've tried partially buttoning, and so if you can see, that does now fit across the back. It's just this zip keeps unzipping itself because there's no hook and eye. I'm so pink. This is definitely where I'm going to need an actual bridesmaid on the day to just do this bit, because I'm puffed. So, but good news is my measurements were right, the fit is good, my basting is in the right place, so next instalment will literally just be machine stitching these side seams, lining and outer, and then hand stitching the lace applique back in place, putting a good proper hook and eye at the top of the zip, which every time I move it just unzips a little bit further. And the last thing will be that it needs bustling, because there is quite a significant train back here that we'll need dealing with. So yeah, I'm gonna go home and lay down and contemplate my life choices. Can I wear pajamas? Right, microphone on, shirt off, I mean business. I have wrestled this thing, which has so many layers, I can't quite get my head around it, so that I can get to the bits I need to get to. I'm going to run some reinforcing stitches over the, there's like an elastic, almost like a bra back, because the front of the bodice is boned. So there's like an elastic situation that holds that in place. So I'm going to run some reinforcing stitches just through that elastic, just a couple of rows, so that it doesn't go anywhere. So that's step one. If I can get to it. How do I get to it? I think I'm going to need to unpick my basting stitches, but that's fine. I'm actually about to start sewing properly. Okie doke. So I can pull out the rest of this basting thread on that side. We're okay. Yep, everything's good. This is very sort of frayed, I don't know if you can see, but it's all going to be on the inside, so I'm not too worried about it, and it is all lined, so. And again, I'm going to reinforce this. So that's already sewn down, this piece of elastic, but I'm just gonna reinforce it just because it used to be encased inside the seam allowance. So the seam allowance is there, the elastic starts here, but I'm worried that if I start unpicking it, it will just unravel. So I'm going to keep it where it is, but just reinforce the stitching on it. Proper dressmakers are probably looking at me now, absolutely horrified that I'm essentially eyeballing this, but it's such a relatively simple alteration that I don't think I need to do much more than just eyeball it. And I'm not to toot my own horn, but I'm reasonably good at eyeballing, she says, dropping a pin on the floor. I've always kind of sewn slightly by eye, so that's kind of how I roll. And yeah, it's literally like a 6-inch seam, so it's all good, peeps, it's all good. Don't panic, you'll be fine. There we have those side seams of the lining done. Now we need to do the same for the outer. So I need to make sure all of the applique is tucked out of the way and not getting too close to the old seam allowance there. And that's, which way around do I want to do this? Okay. Oof. She's a big beastie, isn't she? Honestly, I've said this before, but so much respect after doing this for bridal seamstresses. This is, whoever made this dress is at the top of their game. It's absolutely beautiful. And I do have a seam ripper. I just sometimes find it easier to do little small fiddly bits like this. It's not a seam, it's pieces of hand stitching. It's easier sometimes to do it with a pin. There we go. It's just a little bit of applique that's quite close to the seam, so it's just needed unpicking there so that we could open up the seam at that point. This, by the way, is very much a don't take this as gospel of this is how you should do it. I'm just showing you this is how I'm doing it, because this is how it makes sense in my brain and works with my very intermediate dressmaking skills. If you are a better dressmaker than me, you will do a better job of something like this. What I will need to do is just close up that bit there. So as you can see, so where the old seam folded in, there's a little bit of a peak, which I won't want. So I will ease around that curve a little bit. I might come back and do that after I've done the opposite side. So I like to work where you do the same thing twice and then the same thing twice, if that makes sense. Oh, got another little bit to unpick here. Another thing to consider, of course, when you're not super experienced or super confident is where you're going to do the alterations. So all of these alterations are essentially going to be under my arms, in my armpits. So if it's not a completely straight seam, I don't need to stress myself out about it. Because at the end of the day, I just want to get married. I've got to wear something, and if I'm going to wear something, I might as well wear something big and poofy while I've got the excuse. But beyond that, it's about having a nice party, innit? So yeah, I am, in certain ways I am a bit of a, not a perfectionist, but there's certain things that I'm quite particular about. But I think I'm pretty good with other things of knowing, okay, actually this is where I just let go and don't be too stressed about it. And have a little bit of, you know, que sera, sera. Just let it happen. She says, whilst wrestling 84 layers of dress. I do love seeing other people's work. You can see where they've clipped this to match here to here, so I can use their clips to, like, their pattern marking. So there's a clip there, so I know actually even if I sew much closer to that seam, that's where that should match. And the thing to remember as well is there's no such thing as a machine that can sew a dress. Any dress, however cheap it is, has been through a person's hands. So there's always going to be, you know, someone has made some human decisions along the way. So by jumping in and doing some alterations yourself, it's not like you're taking this pristine object that's never been touched by human hands. And, you know, dressmaking is a human skill. You know, you can use a machine, but that's the same as people in dressmaking factories. They're using fancier versions of a machine. So yeah, there's a little bit down there that I can't quite get to, but I can stitch that little bit by hand. I don't mind doing that, because I'm going to have to be going in by hand to re-stitch on all of the applique at the seams anyway, so that's no big deal at all. Now, where's this bit come from? Okay, so let's make sure that's sitting nice and flush. It's time to reintroduce these seams to each other. I believe there was some top stitching on the outside of this as well, so yeah, I need to do this, turn it right way round, and possibly run some top stitching around the outer edge of it. Now, where's this want to be? There we go. Comme ça. Anyone else just speak in French to themselves sometimes? Just me? Just me, probably just me. Which is looking pretty good to me from the inside. We'll see when we turn it out in a bit how it's looking from the outside. So let's do the opposite seam here. Again, making sure we're not getting anything caught. shouldn't be caught, making sure we are getting things caught that should be. You see me in there like poking my fingers in, I'm just pushing the bits of applique away so that they don't get caught in this seam. Again, I'm just turning this so that I've got a nice straight line that I can see. It's ready for me to try and turn it right way around. You can tell that that's the outer layer because it's got buttons on it. This is the bit where I find I've sewn something very awkwardly wrong. Oh. Oh. Fellas, I think we might be in luck. Got one side seam, two side seams. None of the applique caught in anywhere. Yeah, so a huge thanks to Janome for lending me this beautiful piece of equipment. I've only done a little bit of sewing on it just now, but I am absolutely blown away by it. The difference from my usual machine it's night and day. Just you press a button and it cuts the thread. I know 99% of people this is just standard now, I guess, but it never even occurred to me that that could be a thing. Yeah, it's beautiful. The thread hasn't snapped on me once. I've not had to rethread it. I've just sat down, started sewing, and it's done its job. It's really, really beautiful, and it's the perfect shade of teal at the front here. So yeah, so Janome 5270 QDC, very, very much recommended if you are looking for a new machine. This one is absolutely delightful. It's quiet, it's solid, it does magical things like threading the needle for you and cutting the thread for you. And yeah, just I'm going to keep hold of this for a little bit longer and try some other projects on it in the studio while it's here. But yeah, I'm absolutely blown away by it. It's beautiful. Right, see you at hand stitching time, I guess. So once I have finished with all of the machine sewing, there's just a little bit of hand sewing to do, which is just replacing all of the applique on top of the outer layer of the seam. This is pretty mindless, really, quite easy to do. Just sat in front of the TV. The hardest thing about it was keeping the cat away. And so here we are, we're at the end. I have done it. I finished all the alterations. I had a wedding dress to actually wear on my, well, wedding days, plural, because we did the ceremony on the Saturday and then the party on the Sunday. It all went fine, to be honest. The only things that I've not shown you in this video was I ended up slightly moving the zip, which was literally just taking it out, putting it back in again, just for comfort. And I added some really cheap tulle ribbon to the back of the dress to act as like a bow, because I wanted it, because I thought it'd look pretty. Yeah, I did it. It was fine. There was absolutely no need, number one, for that blooming woman to talk to me the way she did, and number two, for her to attempt to charge me £500, because, okay, yeah, this was a chunk of my time. I've never done this before, so when you're good at a thing, you get much faster at it, but it wasn't £500 worth of anyone's time. I think if I was quick and knew what I was doing, I could have done all of this in like half a day, really. it was literally just unpicking some seams and sewing them back together. If you've got a wedding dress that doesn't fit you, take it apart and see what it looks like inside. You might be surprised at how much seam allowance there is. If you've got any dress that doesn't fit you, to be honest, if you love a dress, don't chuck it just because it doesn't fit. You can let the seams out, you can put panels in, you can repurpose it. Your clothes are your clothes to do with as you wish. Your body doesn't have to fit into your clothes have to fit onto your body. That's the way around it works. So, I hope you found this useful. Thanks again, a huge thanks especially to Deborah at Genome for lending me the machine, because that did make that bit much more enjoyable, even though it was quite a small section of the process. I only had 4 seams to sew and they're about that long each. Yeah, it's actually turned out all right, I thought. I've got a little bit of footage for Neil to overlay on here of the actual day, so you can see how it turned out. Oh, I also went a little bit rogue, bought some fairy lights and sewed them into the dress. That's just because I felt like being daft. When else are you going to get to wear a dress that lights up? So I did sew fairy lights in, but that was literally just a bit of hand stitching. And again, time, battling the cat, easy peasy, really. And yeah, so that's it. I got married. It was a nice dress. I'm really glad that I bought it from a charity shop rather than buying something new. It's going to go straight back to a charity shop. And thanks to you guys for following along. I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to this here Love Sewing YouTube channel. Tell us what you think of this video. We will have more stuff to share with you in the future, I'm sure. Let us know what you would like to see from us. I will also have a more in-depth video of unboxing and first impressions of that sewing machine, which, spoiler alert, it's wonderful. So make sure you subscribe, turn on the notifications to let you know when we post new videos. Come over to Craft World and sign up for our free newsletters there. There's loads of stuff going on. If you want some sewing inspiration, we are more than happy to provide it to you every single week. And of course, we also have Love Sewing magazine. So if you want a physical thing to enjoy every month, it will come through your door if you subscribe, or you can go out to the supermarkets and buy it. It's a wonderful magazine. I'm only slightly biased, honestly. And we'll see you again here next time. By the way, before I go, in case you were wondering about the Star Trek reference, that's because me and Ali might have walked down the aisle to the theme tune from Star Trek Voyager, because that's how cool we are.